The Walker's Tale, as told to Ian Duhig. Only those who are lost in error follow the poets, goes my Abdel Halim version of the untranslatable Quran. See how they rove aimlessly, how they say what they do not do. I'm about to prove God's point again. In another kind of show, this would be the prologue or an anti-mask, a suggestion of what this tale means, but that retreats from me endlessly. A mirage, even its sentences indefinite, suspended, or deferred. For reasons, the walker wears a mask here, so I must mind my words, as he once minded his animals in an African village I won't name either. Mask comes from maskhara, Arabic, which the walker speaks, a Latin to his world like French once or English now, invader languages. Roads are tongues, but this is no easy Chaucerian ride or stroll. Its feet aren't poetic. They blister, trip over the wrong end of the stick, get lost mapping roots of words as if escape routes. So for this moving tale, we track metaphor from a carrying over onto Greek pantechnicons now, then to wondering if it's used in translating immigration removal centre. Translate was carry across, like a tune between lines, Lily Marlene, or the Syrian exile Adonis's poem Music, born into the English language by Matawa. In this house an immigrant lives, and his name is Meaning. I wondered if Adonis punned there on Bayit as both house and verse unit, poets homeless between writing poems in Celan's conception, as it were. But even I had tact enough not to ask the walker his views about that. His own name derives from rightly guided in one of his many languages, but our paths crossed not on a pilgrimage to Mecca, Rome, Jerusalem, or Canterbury, but while visiting the Theatre of Dreams at Old Trafford. Under the big poster of its legends there, he talked about ginger skulls and ginger coffee, made at home so strong that if you drink it once, you'll crave it at the same time every day forever. Guests loved it. They loved guests at home, a chance to show they rose above animals, that they weren't barbarians. We talked about this, then about other things. On my train home, I made notes as full of his silences as his words, their white song lines as beyond me to conduct as flocks he guided through a landscape war changed constantly, where one day's fields were battlefields the next under the flies' black flags and lamentations. He sighed. My story is too long. So he cut to the chase, his own by Janjaweed, a militia whose name means mounted jinn, demon cavalry charged with rooting out traitors or who they say are traitors. One day, cars scream up and men spill out, bristling with guns and questions. Where does he think he's going? Who does he think he is? Why does he support the enemy? Why is he a traitor? Why does he lie? The walker answered, I support only my family and Manchester United. They drove him off anyway and tortured him for weeks, maybe months. The first time he learns that water can be his enemy, can be a weapon. Eventually, his torturers get bored, his abuse too routine to interest them, the walker's family too poor for any chance of a decent ransom. Security slackened, describing his escape over their compound wall. The walker said he was lucky. He said this many times when we spoke, meaning lucky he's not currently being tortured, burned, drowned, or shot. Lucky he's only waiting for something terrible to happen now, all the time. He was free then and there, but home meant Janjaweed vengeance. He needed to get money to his family now, and that meant a city. He didn't know which way to turn, like an animal cut from the herd. A book herd, I'd turned to Stern's gift of his many-handled walking stick, boxing the compass while standing still, all the world's roads unrolling from its pointless point like Rome or ink. I pen my stock, but my mind wanders, grazing on the Kitab al-Asa, Usama's walking stick anthology, Solnit, on that African tribe's Hajj, deferring arrival at Mecca indefinitely, Schopenhauer on our every step, a fall deferred like Galliano's Utopia. I go 2 steps, she moves 2 steps away. I'll never reach her. What good is Utopia? That's what it's good for, walking. Utopia means no place, although the walker didn't need me to translate that for him. Because he can mind animals, he gets a lift moving herds to Libya, a migrant slave market on the world's most dangerous refugee route, in the words of the TV journalist who followed in the walker's footsteps. Here, the walker is penned up indefinitely in no country for old men, women, the young, the unarmed, those who can be sold in part or whole. Here, you need to carry a big stick or loaded gun, since our side won. The walker fled one militia in the Janjaweed, but Libya has hundreds, permanently prowling the streets in pickup trucks with anti-aircraft guns. No other ways of making money in peace, and families of their own to feed. Step outside your detention centre, get kidnapped. Stay in, get beaten, abused, starved. Because he can mind animals, he's taken to a farm, a blank on his driver's map, a no place where time soon lost itself. After forever, he asks for money, pay to send home, earning only blows and threats from the farm owner. So the walker began to walk again, heading for where he heard real jobs waited, under the northern star. Now he draws a blank by design for the next level of his turning hell, the Sahara, the page that eats all tales, the winds that drown all song. Walking through this hourglass means death, but work lies on routes worn by 8 centuries of caravans, of black slaves and concubines before the walker and his new fellow travellers from Sudan, meaning land of blacks, and young Nigerian girls making their own false friends. I've seen the journalists' footage of smugglers' convoys on this route. It's Mad Max in cattle trucks, battering along flat out for fear of the tribes, old, young, men and women hanging off their ropes like ragged flags. As lucky, the walker swung from a wing mirror for days, knowing if he fell, only death would kindly stop for him. Sweat oils fingers. Muscles burn. Winds whistle and cut like swords. You only need one more distraction, a sudden bump, a cry, a spray of white sand, then distance, and mirages swallow people whose names the walker still remembers. His silences still their elegies here, their shrouds, surrounding every letter on this page. Arabic has 40 words for sand, 60 for sword, 70 for water, but none for what the walker wanted to tell. What was his boat like? He shrugged, gesturing at the rickety bookcase bodged up from a kit. Who'd go to sea in such? People who know the risks they are taking, who know they'll have only enough fuel to reach international waters, who write phone numbers on their clothes so their bodies might be known. On the beach, the walker saw patched 30-foot rubber dinghies, heard them still hissing like promises after their pumps were uncoupled, and thought, at least wood floats. 500 crammed into his boat. Its builder looked on and shook his head till pistol whipped. On this coast, Fishermen haul up with their catches sculls like white glass net floats. This boat's ribs creaked. It wasn't caulked. Taking to sea, it took on water. The walker bailed with a sieve of his clothes, seeing reflections of those lost in the Sahara, clinging on here but to gunwale ropes, not truck straps. They fall away always, forever out of reach, mirages made of real water. He found himself treading water instead of sand, his hourglass time dissolving again, till he heard a sound, at first frightening, like feasting flies, but slowly rising to a warm growl. A searchlight stopped on their wreck. Through shuddering downdrafts, a steel angel dropped life jackets. Coast Guard hauled survivors aboard, wrapped them in foil blankets, although the walker still shivered as he told me again how he was lucky. Landed on the boot of Italy, his ground would never feel solid again. Welcomes melted as fast as prospects of work. Like the Janjaweed, Frontex acted as if he was their enemy. Paradise found is paradise lost. The walls and eddies of the walker's fingerprint are now his signature to European power. His spoken tale attended to only for inconsistencies, his identity doubted or denied. They gave the barefoot walker flip-flops and handbooks, so he read with his feet like Ovid in the Solmonese legend, or Dante finding paradise along the lines of Arab poets' night journeys. Ibn Shuhay, Ibn al-Arabi, and al-Ma'ari, whose faith he consigned to hell. Traduttore, traditore. The translator is a traitor, they say in that country, if not just about translators now. The walker didn't need a Bible to translate the writings on the wall outside his hostel and set off for work again. He'd walk all night, reeling between the film strips of railway lines. In his dream, he headed north, but his feet turned towards home, south. Now the walker began to lose trust even in his own walking and the stars. The walker learned to ride any vehicle, any way, even upside down, through Italy, then into France. In Calais, he saw a Sudanese refugee try to ride an articulated lorry upside down and die. He hadn't asked how. The walker hung on to reach England, but his dream realised at last he just passed out on the oasis of the motorway central reservation, sleeping till arrested, printed, processed, and again detained indefinitely. Home Office staff brooded over his fingerprints as if contour maps unspooling from Italy, so they sent him back there without notice, tied up like a corpse, feet foremost, carried over, carried across, only to be driven north again by his hunger for work, money for his family. Here, the walker will live in more English cities than I have all my life, including my home now, Leeds, known as the Jerusalem of the North in anti-Semitic abuse because of all the Jews who fled here once, many from Cossack Janjaweed. Their grateful children raised in thanks, the plaque on Oakwood Clock, where the walker would catch a bus to see the memorial arch raised by grateful children of Huguenot Refugee, whose first gift to us was the word refugee. Their arch's keystone reads, Aimez votre prochain comme vous-même. The past is a foreign country without border controls. Strangely, the walker has become a guide here as Leo Africanus for Johnson's Masque or Yeats's poetry. A traitor to some, Leo was Berber, people named from the same abuse in Arabic as Greek barbarian, bar, foreigners babbling like frightened flocks. The walker might calm if allowed, but that's neither here nor there, like he is, officially, living between the lines on our traffic island, barred from work, unheard at his own hearings, their indefinite sentences unservable, endless mirages of legal Latin babble. I babble here, trying to conjure up for you how it can be that one day out walking, the world just turns against you, first in your own country and then everywhere you go. How rising cries of bar, bar, bar drowned all the walker's languages, whose own real name could hurt him, if I were to speak it here. How stones were given him instead of bread. Sticks broke his bones, which might have shown him the way, helped him walk, or traced in sand its 40 Arabic names, the 99 of God. The walkers, millions. He walks on every day, a step, a fall deferred in a deferred life. I've heard some people say the walkers kind are here because we were there. The man in boots walks where he likes, as the Irish proverb explains. I have fled through land and sea, blank land and sea, because my house is besieged by murderers. Kafka's first translator voices refugees, here without blame, yet with blame, dark blame of other. Blame my version of the walker's untranslatable tale on many counts, lack of direction, poetry, closure, or definition, in the last as bad as UK law for leaving you in the dark, which I do again, now my curtain falls here, reminding me of Szymborska's utopia, island where all becomes clear, solid ground beneath your feet, the only roads those that offer access. On the right, a cave where meaning lies. Utopia. No place. Home.